Today I'd like to show how filters are your friends and a couple of tips to help you use filters more effectively. First, let's say you use the technique to drag your views down to the timeline. This works fairly well, but what it actually is doing is creating a key for every single object and every single property. So if I wanted to try and find my properties or movements or color changes for a specific actor, it'd be very difficult. I can drag my views down and then I'll end up with something like this where I've got everything dragged down. But if I wanted to go and edit my animation, it would be a little bit difficult. So I'm going to use a couple of things. First, I'm going to just show you a search filter, so search actors button. And in this case, I'm going to search just for the rings. So I'm going to use rings. I could search for any actor, any name, any meta property, and do physical actors, or the actor's name equals, contains. Use these Boolean functions to select what I need. This is a fairly simple object, so I'm just going to use name contains and search all. And it's actually going to select the rings. You can see it selected the ring in each of these. And then another tip is to use a selection set so I can go back and select those later. So I'll just call this ring. So I can select those objects and use them at a later time. Now, in the animation, we see the rings are going right through this object. So if I use my selection set and filter, I can see that there's still a keyframe for every single position. And this case I can actually see when the objects are moving between these two keys. But to demonstrate, we're going to actually clean up this file a little bit so we can view only the keys that we need. So one tip is first turn off your filters so you can see all the keyframes for all the objects. And then we're going to use animate, delete unused keys. Are you sure you want to delete unused keys? Yep. And now it doesn't look any different because there's still a keyframe for every position, but not every actor. So if I select the rings again and filter, now I can see there's only keyframes where the rings are actually doing something. In this case, between this step and this step. I'll show a couple other tips here that help when modifying your keys. If you're using filters, you have to remember to turn off your filters if you want to stretch the timeline. So I'm going to change the time, otherwise it will only change the time for the selected actors. I'm going to add some time in between steps 1 and 2 here. I just add a second. So now I move the keys for all of the objects. Now I can go back, select the rings, filter those, and just copy the ring keys. I'm going to hold my control key down, drag back to 2.5 seconds, and then back to 2 seconds. So I've got 3 keys that are basically, the rings are in the same position. At 2.5 seconds here, I'm going to take the rings and expand them up a little bit. 1.2, 1.2. So it looks like they're going to be expanded. Now I'll go to 2 seconds and move them up a bit. So now if we play that animation, it looks like the rings are coming down. It hits 2 seconds, then they start to expand over the model and then collapse down on the model. So I use this technique on a lot of different pieces, including these clips, and ended up with something a little closer to this. You can see the rings come down, the clips go down and in, and the rest of the model assembles. So just a couple of tips to help you use filters more effectively.